takes the snap, steps up, feels pressure, has Beckham on the cross. He's to the 25-20, high steps to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, touchdown Giants! 32 yards for Odell Beckham Jr.
Odell Beckham Jr. has been nothing short of sensational this season, catching 2 more touchdowns yesterday against the Browns, putting his season total at 8. It was his 3rd game this season with multiple receiving TDs. And Max Kellerman, is Odell Beckham the best wide receiver in the National Football League?
Yes, he is. And that has been the case. He has been the best wide receiver in the NFL since he first stepped on the field. It was just harder to prove back then. Every single day of his career since his first game, while he's on the field, not talking about his overall impact in the locker room, media distraction, everything else, he's actually been the best. And what tells you are your eyeballs. Antonio Brown is amazing. The strongest argument based on the numbers can probably be made for him. Julio Jones is amazing. These guys are amazing. And there were amazing receivers in Jerry Rice's era, but they were playing in the Jerry Rice era. Odell Beckham is so talented that he's compared, like early on in his career, people were comparing him to Michael Jordan because his talent transcends the position and the sport. And yeah, through his first 25 games, he was trouncing everyone who ever lived in every category who'd ever played the position, including Randy Moss and Jerry Rice and all those guys. But now through 38 games, first all-time in receptions, in receiving yards, 5th all-time in touchdowns, 2nd in receptions, all-time through 38 games. And he has drawn more attention defensively, maybe than any player in the NFL who plays a skills position. I mean, all the resources on the other side of the ball are devoted to stopping Odell Beckham. And maybe that's loosening up a little bit now that Shepard has shown that he's a real guy. And maybe that's why, Odell's doing a little better now. But in terms of the numbers. But if we're just on it, it's like I said this weekend after the Lomachenko fight, Stephen A. Smith. He doesn't have the resume yet, Lomachenko, to prove that he's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I'm not going to win that argument based on resume, but you ask me my opinion, who I think is the best, I think it's him. Odell Beckham Jr., I believe, is the best, and I thought that since I saw him play his first game. I still think it.
I think you're caught up in the sauce. I think that Odell Beckham Jr. is electrifying, no doubt. Nothing away from him. But he's about 3 pounds. He's about 3 inches shorter, about nearly 30 pounds lighter. And I think that you're limited in where you can put him on a football field. Now, his speed, his athleticism, his ability to catch the football and all of that stuff is obviously rarefied air. I think he's one of the top 3 receivers in all of football. And if you want to make an argument to me that he's just as, if not more, electrifying than Antonio Brown, okay, fine. Even though Antonio Brown is big time in my eyes as well, they do the same things on the football field, not just as wide receivers, but also in special teams, which I saw Odell Beckham Jr. performing in yesterday. But when I think about a wide receiver, I think about, money on the line, not to say that Odell Beckham Jr. is not there as well. But again, I'm thinking about the bigger target. I'm thinking about physicality. I'm thinking about the kind of things he could do. You could put him on one side or left or right side. You can put him in the slot. You can do a whole bunch of things with Julio Jones. Odell Beckham Jr. is so electrifying that the places that he's limited in which he can play, he can make things happen because of his speed and his athleticism and his catching ability. But I think that outside of that electrifying speed, I think everything else that he has, Julio Jones has, combined with size and being a bigger target, and that's why I give Julio Jones the edge.
You guys have like this amazing ability to be really, really right and really, really wrong all at the same time. I think it makes you both geniuses, by the way. I came on here to say Odell Beckham Jr. was the best in the league, and then you talked me out of it with your argument for him, because you mentioned guys like Jerry Rice and Randy Moss and Michael Jordan. I got confused and mixed up all in there because he's none of those people. He isn't. But what Odell Beckham Jr. is what I've been standing on the table saying Antonio Brown has been for years. Because everybody will make that argument about Julio Jones. It's the size, right? And that's something you can't teach. That's something you can't coach. And Julio Jones has those things, plus all the other things that these guys have in a bigger package. But I used to say this about Antonio Brown, and now Odell Beckham Jr. has moved into that spot for me. I used to say if you take all of that away, sort of like your pound for pound argument, right? Because if Lomachenko fights somebody other than Walters who's big, he's going to lose because of the size. When we were all going through the assembly line in heaven, right, and we had our shopping carts, right? There's some receivers who only had one. Odell has like 3. Right? And it's full of speed and agility and hands. And so when you talk about overall receivers, when we take height out of it, Odell Beckham has the largest toolbox of any receiver. He can run every route. I don't agree with Stephen A. that you can't put him certain places because he can play slot. We've seen him run the ball from the backfield. He can be the #1 receiver outside. And the ability, if you saw it yesterday, the ability to catch a crosser with Joe Hayden, thought it to be one of the league's better cornerbacks, chasing him and totally outrun his angle and the angle of 3 other people to score the touchdown.
Little slant, take it to the house.
That is rare. And he can do that. I think that's something that Antonio Brown used to be able to do. I feel like he's lost a step of that explosiveness, which makes Odell Beckham Jr. take that spot of power.
I want to say one thing.
I did not say he can't do it. I said that I would prefer Julio Jones over him.
I got you.
And certainly.
That's the argument for Julio Jones. It's Odell, but blown up into a bigger package. I don't think it's quite Odell. I think Odell is actually more talented. But I want to say one thing about Odell. The worst thing that could happen for him in terms of his reputation around the league was the catch. Because what that catch did was gave everyone an escape valve. Because no one wants to admit when a guy turns pro, that dude is already the best. Like when Roy Jones Jr. turned pro, after his first pro fight, I was like, over a short fight, I don't know anyone who could beat Roy right now in the middleweight division, right? That's Odell.
I just want to say for the record that I was always a dude, as much as I loved Roy Jones Jr., who said, I need to see you get hit and how you respond.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to make sure.
But
I just want to make sure
the point is that catch allowed people the out of saying, well, he's getting all these props because of that catch. No, that catch caused him to be underrated because everyone started to say that and look away from his overall ability. What that catch was an expression of his talent. It indicated it was something no one else can do but Odell Beckham Jr., and it's not just that, it's everything.
Here's where I think you're wrong. When you talk about that catch, you act like from the day he walked into the NFL, he's what he is now. No, Odell Beckham Jr. is better now than he was last year.
I agree with that.
He's better now than he was the year before. Here's
your other issue. Even though Odell has done what he's done and he's done those numbers are compared to people just starting their career, rookies. While he's doing that, Julio, Antonio, we getting 1,800. We getting 136 catches. So if you put the numbers side by side, right, if we do it Ivy League style like you like to do it, those numbers don't match up. They don't match up in today's, in the way the game is now.
Do the Falcons and do the Steelers have good offensive lines or bad offensive lines?
The Falcons have an okay offensive line.
Nothing
compared to the Giants.
We're not talking about the Dallas Cowboys.
But right, because they don't have receivers quite like that.
They both get just as much attention as
I don't
Odell
think
Beckham.
they do, number one. Number two, the Giants receivers for a lot of this year couldn't even get into their routes because the offensive line was so bad. That doesn't affect his numbers.
Here's the thing. You don't think they do get the attention. I know they do get the attention.
I will defer to you on that subject. Tom Brady's just about done. It could be his next game he plays, it could be a year from now, but he is going to fall off a cliff. Tom Brady is going to be a bum in short order. That will happen. Brady will go from being elite, maybe he's still the best, to can no longer play effectively in the NFL. It's going to happen in an eye blink either this year or next.
So dramatic. That was Max Kellerman predicting the end is near for Tom Brady's greatness before the season. And yesterday, it looked like he could be onto something. As Brady and the Pats struggled for most of the game against the Jets, they did manage to get the win, which was his 200th in Brady's career, tying him with Peyton Manning for the most all time. Brady overthrew or underthrew 26% of his pass attempts yesterday, his highest off-target percentage this season. Ryan Clark in the house. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Is this...
Ryan?
Max, is this the beginning of the end for Tom Brady, as you predicted?
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to say the second half of last year was. Look, whenever you say on TV something good about a player, people feel like you're pro that player. Bad about a player, you're anti that player. I'm not pro or anti Tom Brady. I both consider him the greatest quarterback of all time already. I think he has that. And I think he's about to fall off a cliff. Now, no quarterback who's ever lived has been elite at the age of 41. Which will be Tom Brady at the end of next season. So I said at the time, 18 months left and he's going to fall off a cliff. And by the way, fall off a cliff that language is specific. I'm not saying he's going to decline like this. I'm saying he's cruising at an elite altitude and then straight down. Because that's what happened, as it did to Peyton Manning. as it has to all old quarterbacks like that. They can do this forever. Brett Favre, oh, he can keep going till he's 45 off the cliff. Now, last year we saw Tom Brady as two different quarterbacks. Well, because of injuries, because of this, because of that. Yeah, there are always reasons. But here's the bottom line. First half, he was one of the greatest quarterbacks anyone had ever seen. No one else will be in the MVP conversation. Second half, he had a QBR sub 60. It plummeted. Older quarterback wearing down. This year, first 4 games, which occurred in the first half of the season after the suspension, maybe the greatest stretch of quarterbacking of all time. Ha ha, Max, look, he's better than ever. You know what he's done in the last 3 games? He is sandwiched in total QBR between Aaron Rodgers and Brock Osweiler. He's the 14th. It's about league average. Between Aaron Rodgers and Brock Osweiler, 2 guys who are being roundly criticized for their quarterback play. And while his QBR is still very good, it's above 70, it's fallen off from 94 to that level in those 3 games. Here comes the second half of the season, a 24 or 22-point nosedive in his QBR so far. Now, will he play next year? I think so, and I think he'll be even maybe very good until the second half of next season. But that's the outer limit. Tom Brady, we are seeing the beginning. That doesn't mean he'll never have another good game, but we are seeing the beginning of the end of the greatest quarterback who ever lived. Here comes the cliff.
You go ahead, bro. Like you ready.
He irritates me with this subject. He really, really does, because it's so disrespectful. I mean, listen, I'm a native New Yorker, as is he. And, you know, I'm prone to be allergic to anything that elevates Boston and the Massachusetts area in any kind of way, because New Yorkers, you know, we hate all their sports teams and their sports heroes, even though I love Big Papi and stuff like that. But Tom Brady, he's having, you know, he's falling off a cliff, you know. Just look at the numbers. He's completed 68% of his passes. I just want to throw that out there. He's got 18 touchdowns and 1 interception. 1. That's it. One interception. 8 touchdowns. A QBR of 89. Now, I don't want to throw out those numbers, but I thought it was necessary.
He threw out a lot of numbers, too.
Since he threw that out, I thought it was necessary to offset it just to make sure we understand what we're seeing.
QBR has dropped 20-something points in the second half.
Excuse me. He's going to probably took the day off against San Francisco. The Jets are the Jets. When they go up against Tom Brady, he usually wins, but sometimes it's a struggle. The game before that, I'm sorry, he played against the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, he threw for 316 yards, completed 71% of his passes. But why throw that number out? Why? It really doesn't matter, because it was only against the #1 defense in the NFL. I mean, why bother? You know, Tom Brady falling off a cliff. Do you have any idea who the quarterbacks are in the NFL? Tom Brady off a cliff is still better than 75% of the damn quarterbacks in the NFL, because half of them stink, and the other third of them, you know, are average at best. So your definition of falling off a cliff, where, you know, it just falls off of it,
Roadrunner style.
When I see it, I'll be the first to let you know.
You didn't see it with Peyton Manning and Brett Favre? Because people had the same reaction when I said that.
Well, excuse me.
That's the history of the NFL.
No, I don't view it that way.
Okay.
And Tom Brady, Peyton Manning had those injuries that Tom Brady's never had. Go ahead.
So here's the thing. Max, you hedge your bets really well.
Yes, he does.
Right? Because you're like, he won't be elite or greatest quarterback of all time, but he's going to fall off a cliff. But falling off a cliff don't mean he's not going to have some good games, but he's going to fall off the cliff. You know what? I like the way you do it, though, because you say the cliff thing really loud. And then the other stuff, you throw it in there, right? So when they try to replay this, they will put the stuff you said loud, but then you say, but no, you heard that? I said he would have a great game.
It's actually a good plan. Let me write it down.
I said he would do something. So here's the thing. You know who Steve Rogers is?
Yeah.
Right, Steve Rogers, you might know, Steve Rogers was Captain America before they put him in the machine.
Yeah,
right?
Before he gets super soldier suit.
Right, before he did all that, right? And so that's Tom Brady we saw at the Combine, right? The dude that had more body fat than muscle mass in his picture, the dude that ran a 4 ever, and then he went to, I'm saying he's still human, because Captain America's still human. Even though they souped him up,
he's still, so eventually,
right, so eventually Captain America could die. Mm-hmm. As will Tom Brady, as will we all, because we're all just breathing until death.
Correct.
But watching what he did the last 3 games, what you see are the numbers, right? Because you got to go look the numbers up so you can know what's going on. Oh, let's see what the numbers say. What I saw was when they needed 83 yards to win the game, he got it done. What I see is a guy like Stephen A. Smith says, 18-1. And so these guys we're talking about in the MVP race, Derek Carr, he's 22-5. Dak Prescott, he's 18-2. Now you have your Drew Brees. You have your Drew Brees, who is just off the charts. But Tom Brady's right in there in that mix after missing four games. After missing 4 games. So you go on the road to San Francisco, it's a slow start, and you bring it back. Here's the other issue.
Can you go back to the human part? In other words, all you're saying is eventually we all die because we're human, and quarterbacks will die the sport's death
Getting
too.
real heavy.
And all I'm saying is it's not even me, others have identified the date at which quarterbacks expire, and without exception, it is before the age of 41, and all I've done at that point is addition, or in this case,
which is why I call you spot element.
Right.
That's exactly why I call you
We're just identifying the date.
He has 3 more years.
History logic says
Tom Brady has 3 more years.
No, he doesn't.
He has 3 more years.
Easy.
Right?
That's what they said about Peyton and Favre.
Maybe
Peyton
not 3
did
more
win
years.
a Super Bowl. Let's
Maybe
not
not
forget
3
his
more
last
years.
year.
He won a Super Bowl.
Maybe not 3 more years is the greatest quarterback of all time, but he has 3 more years of being elite and playing, by the way, with people nobody else wants. Right?
Incorrect. The Patriots are so bad at making a team.
Listen to me. Just listen to me for once. Just calm down. Right? Other than Gronk, there's no elite receiver on this team. Malcolm Mitchell, I'll see him any day. Julian Edelman, I'll see him any day. Amendola, I'll see you any day. But Tom Brady puts these people together, and they look really, really good. And then they leave, and we never hear about them. Yesterday, there was no Gronk. Martellus Bennett is injured. What does he do? He finds James White. He finds Malcolm Mitchell. He finds ways to score. And that's what greats do. He is still great. Now, we could break down the numbers and talk about the age all we want. He got 3 more years. And if he plays 3 more years, guess what he's done?
What's that?
At that age, at the end of his career, he's had the average career of an NFL player.
But here's the deal. Huh? In
3 years is the average career of an NFL player. So you're saying he's falling off the cliff, and I'm saying he'll get that.
Here's the deal. He's not going to last 3 more years. And your only source of evidence is the fact that
the history of mankind.
Brett Favre and Peyton Manning.
My source of evidence is the history of mankind.
Captain America, history of mankind.
No matter how many
we're all going to die.
I
What's
got
going
news
on?
for you. You've said it 1,000 times. We heard you. History of mankind. We heard you loud and clear. Your evidence is not there. It's not there because at the fact of the matter, when you look at Peyton Manning, you look at injuries. When you look at Brett Favre, we know how he got beat up. The bounty gate existed for a reason now. We saw what happened to Brett Favre.
What about when you look at every other quarterback who ever lived?
Wait. He's clearly the exception because not too many 6-rounders have looked like Tom Brady. He's the greatest ever, according to you.
Yes.
Also, you're the same guy on the record, just so because I don't know if you were here when he said.
Let me know, Steve. I like the
He also said the same thing about Drew Brees. And what I said to him was this.
Yes.
Drew Brees, face of the organization, deserves his money. Give that man what he wants because this is who he is. He said Drew Brees going to fall off a cliff too.
Yes, not yet, but before 41.
Time out.
Well, I can say people going to die before 100.
That's right.
Well, yes, if you look, if the outer limit, if the outer limit,
they had to do it in Virginia. That's 106. Can't get a date.
Anyone has ever lived,
they got to do it in Virginia. That's 106. Talking about he can't get a date on TV.
The latest anyone has ever lived, the longest, let's say, is 122 years, and there's some old person who appears to be in perfect health, and you say they're going to live 123 years. I'm going to say if they do, they've defeated the odds. You're making the argument that Tom Brady will defeat
I'm making the Tom Brady argument.
Odds.
I'm making a Tom Brady argument, not a world mankind quarterback.
I would suggest betting on mankind.
I hope we all live long, happy, healthy lives
You brought up Steve Rogers. You remember Vicky from iRobot with Will Smith? My logic cannot be denied.
I like iRobot, but it's not as iconic as Captain America.
Well, iRobot was a good movie. Will Smith did a good job.
He'll be back with us a little later in the show. Appreciate you.
Vicky. That's
Steve Rogers, 95-pound weakling to Captain America.
Yes, sir.
My logic can't be